We heard one. Good morning, Muncie. Good morning. Thank you all for being here so bright and early on a Monday morning. This town, yes, round of applause. I saw some. This this town shows up. You all show up each year for the State of the Child, and I know you show up for kids in your community. So it is a joy to be here once again for the 8th annual State of the Child in Muncie. My name is Tammy Silverman, and I have the honor of serving as the president and CEO of Indiana Youth Institute. Today, it is really an honor to be joined by all of you in this room. I was sharing with some of our partners and co-hosts that as we were planning this, that it is always wonderful to come to Muncie because you are all so welcoming and engaged. Everyone from Jenny Marsh, who I see back there, hi Jenny, um, and two members to our superintendent of schools. Thank you for being here this morning. To our wonderful co-hosts, this event is really about what we can all do together. We want to particularly thank the Muncie and Delaware County community, really that heart of Indiana United Way, which we mentioned, Jenny Marsh, who we often put in one sentence together because it is so much of her heart as well. The George and Frances Ball Foundation and Ball State University Office of Community Engagement for hosting us. We are fortunate to have that engaged and energetic planning group that works on this starting for those of you who know Julie Metzger, thank you, Julie. She's one of our board members. Julie starts planning this usually around October, November. And then we really get going after the first of the year. But this is something that we think about for quite some time because it is crucially important to us. So whether it is here at Ball State or across the state, you are helping to make a difference in the lives of so many children. So before we begin this morning, let me set the stage for our time together. We're going to start really big picture, and we're going to start with the 2025 State of the Child and the Kids Count Data Book that we released at the State House a week ago today. Then we're going to get you connecting and talking to one another. And then we can talk about the data that is specific to this community. Our IYI data team, who are extraordinary experts and who've worked so hard, Olga and Bree, that are both here this morning, are going to talk through those conversations. We want this to be interactive. We want to have this conversation that will lead to action. Then we're going to invite our friends Tammy Pearson, President and CEO of Project Leadership, and Chris Walker, Principal of Muncie Community Schools, to the stage to share and inspire you on the pathway to employment work they are doing with students right here in Delaware County. At Indiana Youth Institute, you probably know that our goal is to improve the lives of our youth. We do that through research and data, college and career readiness, and programs for youth-serving organizations and youth workers. We also do that by remembering our individual why. This room is full of leaders and service providers. Many of us work with young people directly or have at some point in our career. Many of us are also parents who are living out this data and these issues within our own homes. But we were all children once. We were all children once, some of us longer ago than others, but we were all children once. And that means we have a sense of what this is like. Last year, we came and we encouraged this audience to reflect back and to view these issues through the lens of our own memories. And it was some fun. We had a little bit of fun. These are some of our IYI staff members, and we still have photos of those that we were looking at. So, for example, as a child in Hanover, Corey's summers were really filled with joy. Splashing in the pool, playing with her dolls and her little brother, visiting the library, and dreaming of becoming a teacher, which she did. Yolanda's love of reading and perseverance were nurtured by her maternal grandmother, who taught her to read the newspaper. There were still newspapers, and kids read them. And grandparents read them. Her maternal grandmother taught her to read the newspaper by age 5. 5. And that set an example for her that persevered throughout her career. Her maternal grandmother actually went back and got a master's degree at age 52 and then retired as a teacher at the Indianapolis School Corporation. Indiana is full of wonderful stories like this. So whether our kids are athletes or honor students or both, or musicians or artists, we care about all of Indiana's children because we were one of them. We were one of them. The times have changed, and we know that's true. We grew up with landlines and dial-up internet. Right. And just even saying that, I hear that. I can't even hardly say that without hearing that noise. How many of you heard that noise? Yeah, folks are saying yes. We had to write down directions and we had to remember our friends' phone numbers or have one of those little books, right by the phone. Today, our kids have streaming services and chat GPT. So the times have changed. But the feelings of childhood haven't changed that much. There's still the anticipation of walking into class on the first day and the nerves of that first middle school dance. Ooh, middle school's tough, right? Middle school's tough. There's still the joy of recess and playgrounds and the fear of a big test. Those are still the same. And what that means is we've been there before, so we know something about how it feels. We encourage you all to remember those feelings of childhood and adolescence, all of them, so that we don't forget, so that we can really look at these numbers today and remember that they represent real kids. These aren't numbers, just numbers. These aren't widgets. This isn't dollar signs. This data represents kids. That's why I'm delighted to be joined today by Project Leadership and Muncie Community Schools. You'll hear Tammy and Chris talk about collaborations and connections that they are creating for students right here in Delaware County. And they remind us why we're here, to support our kids. The State of the Child is all about children. All the data is about children. But the audience, look around, is mostly adults. And that's because the State of the Child is really a report card for adults. This tells us how we're doing, how we're supporting our children. There's a saying that the greatest responsibility of any generation is to take care of the generations that follow. And we honor that by being here. For 31 years, Indiana Youth Institute has published the Kids Count data book. 31 years. We use this opportunity to share the latest findings, and in that role, we serve as honest evidence brokers. But it also means we need your help to share this information and then to act on it. So, here it comes. Ready for our report card? Report card time. When it comes to issues affecting our youth, this year, Indiana ranks 15th in the country for economic well-being, 17th for education, 31st for family and community, and 32nd for health. The economic ranking was an improvement. And this year, Indiana ranks 27th in the country for overall child well-being. You know, there are several encouraging trends. Teen birth rates are down. The ratio of dentists and mental health providers has improved. They're on the rise. Median family income is up. And child poverty is the lowest it has been in our state in over a decade. That's important stuff. That means we're doing many things right. There are positives throughout this report card. We can also see several issues that we still need to address. Only 50% of 3 to 4-year-olds are enrolled in early childhood education in Delaware County. 50%. And food insecurity is the highest it's been in years. The data shows the same trend for Delaware County. We continue to see the effects of the pandemic on our children and their ability to learn. In 2024, at the state level, around 40% of students in grades 3 through 8 passed both the iLearn mathematics and language arts. We see similar trends in Delaware County, where 37.2% of students passed their iLearn language arts, and in 2024, 39.8% of students passed iLearn math. Those numbers are down from the pre-pandemic levels. While Indiana recently improved to 6th in reading in the 2024 National Assessment of Educational Progress, we're learning the country and our state and our communities still have work to do to help our children catch up. We're also seeing the effects on youth civic engagement. Before the pandemic, the majority of our 14 to 17-year-olds volunteered or participated in some sort of community service. But that is no longer the case. We're known for Hoosier hospitality, and that is very apparent in Muncie. For showing up. We show up. You all were here super early this morning. You're ready to go. At 8 o'clock, you're ready, right? Like, you are ready to go. We know that. We need to be instilling that dedication to showing up for your community in our next generation. We want our youth, we need our youth to be active and engaged citizens. We also want them to be active and engaged physically. According to the data, 23% of our 6 to 17-year-olds played a sport or participated in a physical activity for at least 60 minutes per day. They need to be moving. That's actually higher than the national average, but it's still nowhere near, 23% is nowhere near the majority. In Indiana, we love our sports. We love our sports. Y'all do here too, right? So I've been told. Yeah. You love your sports, from the Indy 500 to basketball games to football games to swimming to volleyball, all the things. We love our sports. We host national championships routinely in our state. And at the same time, while we live for that competition, our kids are not intended to be just spectators. We need them to be active participants. All Hoosier kids should have quality opportunities to play and have fun. Because looking back, those were some of our best memories. Think about those games. Dodgeball game, maybe not. Kickball, I don't know. But shooting hoops, being part of a team, those were developmental experiences that helped our bodies and our minds and our employability skills. Brings up another issue. More children in Indiana live in neighborhoods without parks, recreation centers, or libraries than the nation at large. And that's a void we can fill. We want Indiana communities to feel like home for all of our kids. We also want every child in Indiana to have a home. In 2024, over 18,000 of our young people experienced foster care. That's more than 2 packed Newcastle field houses, which, for those of you who know Indiana basketball history, happens to be the largest high school gym in the country. 2 of those packed are our young people, 18,000, that have experienced foster care. And that broke what was a steady decline dating back to 2016. Locally, we saw the number of kids experiencing foster care increase in Delaware, Madison, Blackford, and Grant counties. To highlight positive changes in the data, we saw decreases in Henry and Randolph counties. We care about each of those young Hoosiers. That's why we talk and partner with local programs, and we want to highlight one of those, which is Foster Success. Their mission is to empower young people who are transitioning out of foster care and beginning the journey to self sufficiency. They remind us that what children need is love and encouragement, no matter where they live or what they've been through. We care about those success stories in Indiana, and one worth mentioning is the remarkable decline in substance use amongst our youth. According to the Indiana Youth Survey, substance use is down across every single grade. Wow, right? Isn't that tremendous? As an example, yeah. Yay, yes, we can. And we're talking about in this case cigarettes, vaping, alcohol, and marijuana all have decreased. So as an example, since 1993, feels like a long time ago, and for some of us, we still remember when that was. Since 1993, cigarette smoking amongst eighth graders, so think about this, eighth grader smoking went from 21%, 21% of our eighth graders were smoking in 1993 to now it is 1.2%. Wow. Those kind of changes take time. They take time. Monthly alcohol use declined from 30 to 7% over that same time period. These big changes take time, but we can do the work. We saw the same decline of use in Muncie and the surrounding counties, where students have the second lowest usage rates for alcohol and vaping, the lowest usage rate in the state for marijuana, and the sixth lowest usage rate for cigarettes. Good stuff. Good stuff. In fact, students in Muncie and neighboring counties reported less substance use than the state average and at rates nearly half of what they were in 2022. Think about that. Think about what that does for their health and well being. At the same time, there are still disparities. Students in our rural counties are more likely to use substances than their peers. We know that we can change these numbers, and in doing so, we can change the lives of young people. We're learning about the benefits of social connection in the lives of our youth, and that's certainly true when it comes to their mental health. In 2024, over a quarter of our teenagers in Muncie and surrounding counties reported feeling so sad and hopeless for consecutive weeks that they stopped doing their usual activities. While the statistics regarding youth mental health have improved slightly from the worst months of the pandemic, we know that the mental health crisis amongst our kids isn't over, and that deserves our attention. Our young people are growing up in the midst of what the former Surgeon General called an epidemic of loneliness and isolation. They have fewer friends than we did, and they see them less often. They certainly have fewer unstructured hangout times than we did. I think all of us might remember that time when our parents said, just go, you know, go out and hang out and come back for dinner, right? Go outside, be outside, hang out with your friends. You didn't have to have a plan. You didn't have, a carpool chart. You just hung out and figured out what to do. Hopefully, it wasn't that smoking that we were talking about before, but we had less structure and we had more hangout time and more friends. We know that smartphones and social media do play a part, and we can set better boundaries and model good behavior for our young folks. But we still need to reconnect young people to each other in the real world. We need to connect them to each other and to things they care about. The Bloom Project is one of those mentoring and out of school time organizations that offers service learning and character development. They're helping students find that sense of purpose, and so do many, many of the organizations here and around Delaware County. We want Indiana's youth to feel empowered. We want them to feel energized. And part of that empowerment is access to youth employment. Think about some of your early jobs, all that you learned, the freedom of making a little bit of money and being able to make some choices. Over 35% of our teenagers aged 16 to 19 were employed in 2023, which surpassed the national average, which is great. Because our job is to prepare youth for a future that we can't even predict. Who knew that I'm going to see if I can get this right, an AI prompt engineer was even a thing? And now it's a big deal, right? So we need to be preparing our kids for things we don't even know will exist in their future. The good news is that Indiana's graduation rate is the highest rate it's been in over a decade at 90.2%. Even better, who knows what that rate is here in Delaware County? I feel like a bunch of you do. Here in Delaware County, the graduation rate surpassed that state average with a graduation rate of 94% of students graduating high school. That's over a 3% increase from just the year prior. So you all are doing a lot right here in your schools. Over 66% of students graduate with some form of early college credit, and that sets them on a positive path forward. And for those who go on and enroll in college, Indiana ranks 10th in the country. Remember some of those rankings. Overall, we're 27th, but we rank 10th in the country for college completion in 6 years. Good stuff. We know at the same time, we know the goal isn't for every child to get a 4-year degree. My mom was the assistant director of the Hoosier Hills Vocational School. She worked with kids who chose a different path, and that was the right path for them. However, we know that part of our goal is to help each and every student find a life with purpose and stability so they can focus on the things that really matter, like friends and family. So today we've received our report card, but it's not our final grade. Think of it kind of as we're perpetually at the mid-semester. We can still do a lot to benefit our kids and to impact all of those rankings. Today there's a lot to feel good about, but there's also much that needs to be improved. We need to be in constant conversation with our kids so that we understand what it's like now and what they're going through. And as adults, one of the best things we can do, all of us in this room that work and professionally dedicate our lives and energies to helping kids, one of the best things we can do is to be really good, thoughtful leaders. Generations come and go in Indiana. I know that many of us have lived and were raised and have grandparents in different part of the state. Those generations come and go. They've been around and they shaped this wonderful university. And they've invested in our futures. Now it's our responsibility to pay that back. And we do that by paying it forward. We signed up for this work because we knew that kids needed us. Kids can't forge alone by themselves, nor were they ever intended to. They need supportive, caring, thoughtful adults. We know that today as adults, we're often tested. We're tested by distractions and disruptions, all kinds of things, budgets and bills and all the things that are going on in our lives. Seems we are busy most, if not all the time. And the world is changing. You know that. The good news is we know some things that we need to do. Many of you are working on those right now. We know that our children need more protections online and more free time in the real world. They need more role models and fewer influencers. They need activities instead of apathy. They need warm and loving homes. They need access to healthy food. They need people who will listen, and they need ways to find their own voice. We can't guarantee success. As hard as we work, we can't guarantee success. That's not how any of this works. But we can do our best to give them the best possible start. And that's our greatest responsibility. And that is, in fact, our call to action. The State of the Child doesn't end here. We're gonna talk some more about the data. We're gonna hear some things that are going on. But even after we leave today, the state of the child is something we're responsible for. The state of children in Delaware County is something we are responsible for every day. We want you to take the data into organizations to use, to have conversations around, to make an impact here. Our time together doesn't end either with me. I've had the pleasure of setting the stage, and now we're going to go a deep dive into Delaware County. I'm going to turn it over to Ashley Haynes, our Vice President of Communications and Data.
All right. Good morning. I have the pleasure of getting you all to talk with each other about some of the data that you just heard and also about some of the data that we have available at iyI.org. So, to start us off, as Tammy mentioned, the data doesn't live here in this room or in our data book alone. It lives out in the community with each of you every day as you're working with kids. But we also know that there's a lot of action and thought that is sparked by conversation, collaboration, and building new connections. So that's what we're going to do for the next 20 or so minutes this morning. Up on the screen, you see a couple of questions that you can use to think about data to spark action and curiosity. There's also printouts on each of your tables if you need a reference, because I'm going to change what we're seeing on the screen here in just a moment. There's also sticky notes on the table. I would like everyone, either on a sticky note or on your notepad, whatever piece of paper you have, I want you to write down one piece of data, one piece of information you heard Tammy say that caught your attention. IYI also puts together a county level dashboard where you can access your community level information. And I am going to walk you through that. If you want to take your phone and scan that QR code, you'll be able to use the dashboard here for our conversation this morning. I'll also show you, if you have a larger device like a laptop or an iPad, how you can access it from our website. All right. So, real quick show and tell about how to find the county dashboard on our website. On iyI.org, under the Data tab, you'll find the county dashboard. That will take you to the county dashboard where you can either view it straight on the website or you can open it up to another screen. When you open up the dashboard, it'll take you through some very helpful instruction pages. You'll find demographic information and then a couple of data slides that we're going to go through together. On each page of the dashboard, you're able to filter by your county. So if you work here in Delaware County primarily, you'll be able to filter by that. If you're in one of the neighboring counties like Henry, Randolph, Blackford, you can also access that county level information. All right. Do you remember those questions that I had up on the screen before? Great. There's a printout on your table that can help remind you what they are. Okay, so what we're going to do for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to prompt you guys through some conversations around the data. And our data team, Bree and Olga, are going to be circulating around, helping to answer any questions, helping to prompt conversation. What I want you to think about first is either that data point that you wrote down from Tammy's presentation or one of these data points that you see up here on the screen. I want you to turn to a neighbor at your table. I want you to first tell them the data point that sticks out to you and ask and share with them what questions that prompts for you. I'll come back up here in a couple of minutes and we're going to change the data that we're looking at. I'm just going to interrupt your conversations for a moment here. I moved to the health data on our dashboard, and Delaware County and the surrounding counties, you guys are in region 5 of this data. So when you're looking up here or interacting with the dashboard, there is a little help box up here that tells you all of the regions and what counties are in them. And Delaware County and the surrounding areas are in region 5.
Like, I get it.
All right, I hear many of you talking about this already, but if you could switch gears for just a moment, instead of thinking just about the data point that stands out to you, I want you to think, how is the work that you are doing in the community or organizations that you're partner with, how are you either working together as your organization to impact the data that you've seen and heard so far this morning? So I want to take us from thinking about this data point was really interesting to what work is being done around that data to improve the outcomes for our kids. All right, I'm going to bring us back together. I'm going to wrap up your conversation. Bring your eyes back up here to me at the front of the room. All right, before we introduce our next speakers from the community, who could share with the group? I'm going to do just a quick little share out. If you want to, could you share a piece of data, some information that either stuck out to you or something that's inspired a thought that you might want to put into action in the community? We'll just take 2 or 3 folks who want to share with our group. You guys are having a lot of good conversations, so I know that you're talking about something.
What are we gonna have?
Okay.
Our group talked a lot about the foster care system and just sort of the challenges that were with placements and some of the areas where there definitely was some recognition of improvements, but also some gaps in trying to fill those gaps. We also talked a lot about sort of the after school and out of school experiences for youth and how parents are drivers of the quality of those experiences. And parent interactions between those that are supporting you are also tend to be a significant challenge. So both in the school, outside and outside the school. So that was one of the things that was talked about.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Who's one more brave person to share what you're talking about at your table?
We sort of hated to put a damper on some of the great data, like the 94% graduation rate. But at our table, we talked a lot about, while that's beautiful, how many of those kids are actually ready for not just graduation, but for the next phase after graduation. Because a lot of us have experienced sort of that pressure to get kids along to the next grade. So how many of these kids are actually ready? And so we talked about early literacy. We talked a lot about like what are we doing early on to prepare our children to pass those I-learning tests and beyond that, and how are we supporting our families to be able to support their children to actually.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I swear that was not intentional. We'll do one more. Say that is going to be a beautiful lead in to our next set of speakers. We got one more brave hand in the room.
I'm just wondering, where do homeschoolers fit in that number? Because I know that homeschooling is like on the rise. Do they get counted in the graduation rate or the drop-off rate, or there's a like kind of their own set?
Yeah, that is a great question. And after the presentation, come and chat with us with the data team, and we can help answer that question specifically. Thank you. All right. So I want to, sorry, I'm going to click through the slides. I'm going to invite Courtney Zimmerman up to introduce our next set of speakers.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Courtney Zimmerman. I work for the George and Frances Ball Foundation, where we have the honor to serve as the backbone for Cradle to Career Muncie. And Cradle to Career Muncie is a collective impact initiative focused on overcoming generational poverty through educational attainment. The work of Cradle to Career Muncie would not be possible without the many organizations, many of you in this room, and individuals that they're dedicated to working together to create a prosperous future for our children and our community. Today, I have the tremendous privilege to introduce two key individuals who are working together through Cradle to Career Muncie's high school graduation can, or Collaborative Action Network, to make sure that every student graduates from Muncie Central and that they graduate with a career action plan. Tammy Pearson is the Executive Director and CEO of Project Leadership. Project Leadership is a small nonprofit focused on providing equitable access to education and careers beyond high school. Through Tammy's creative and visionary leadership, Project Leadership has leveraged millions of tuition dollars for thousands of young people in Delaware and Grant counties. Through signing students up for 21st Century Scholars Program, operating FAFSA labs, and now through their career coaches at Muncie Central, Project Leadership continues to connect every student to help figure out their hopes and aspirations for the future, and they are finding ways to connect those students with relevant hands-on experiences. Chris Walker is the principal of Muncie Central High School. His passion and commitment to his students in the Muncie community is so infectious that I bet you won't leave here today without a smile on your face. Chris and his team at Muncie Central have been working hard to develop pathways and work-based learning opportunities for every Muncie Central High School student. Work-based learning experiences are critical for students to figure out what they want to do as a future career. But what can sometimes even be more impactful is for students to figure out what they don't want to do at an earlier age. Through Chris's leadership in developing a new freshman academy and increasing graduation rates, it's a good day to be a Muncie Central Bearcat. Please join me in welcoming Tammy and Chris to our program today.
Hey, everybody, and good morning. This feels good. Um, I'm Tammy, and it is such a privilege to be here and to huh, be inspired by all of the data that the IYI team has put together. Um, I just I want to begin with an impromptu shout out to data people everywhere. You are amazing. And Muncie data people, just do a little wave. Come on, Muncie data people. Are you waving? It's they they could be their own presentation up here. It's so cool how Muncie is investing in data and has a whole team devoted to that. So I feel like we need to get like all of y'all together. That should happen. Okay. Um, so let's talk about a really fantastic partnership that actually goes back about 16 years. And we have just been building and building and building on this ever since. So I'm going to flip down here. This this quote is sort of a guide to our discussion today that I really like this a lot because it sort of chunks it out. Like when things feel overwhelming, it's just a way of getting things done. So we have the beginning, we have progress, and we have success. And I've been thinking a lot about beginnings and what happens in beginnings. And I love so much that Tammy was sharing in her really compelling opening comments about like it all starts with this word. It just starts with this word. It's like, why are you in here today? The coffee's good. Starbucks, thank you for the coffee. Well, why are you doing what you're doing in your day job, or maybe it's your night job, or maybe it's the weekend? Why? And there's that question mark at the end, um, and it's wonderful to be able to journey through why as a form of discovery when you have people who can help you try and figure out what that question mark means in your life. What we're working to do through our partnership is really to take that question mark and make it a statement. Like this is our why. These are these are Chris's kids. I feel like this is becoming a t-shirt slogan. Um that's that's our why right there. And when we look at what really ties us together as partners, it's kids, it's students. Every single piece of the partnership that we enjoy as a nonprofit organization uh, is centered around kids. Thank you for you set that, Courtney. Thank you. You set the table so well in sharing what our vision and mission is, and I'm just gonna remind everyone what that is. And I was so excited. I wrote down on my sticky note the most exciting thing is that child poverty has decreased for the first time in more than a decade. Yes, it gives me chills thinking about it. That's our vision at Project Leadership. Uh, our mission is, and how we work to live that out, is through equity, access, career readiness, education. And I'm just going to say a thing. This is this is the team over here. Would you guys just stand up for just a minute? Just a quick stand up. Quick, 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 quick. These folks got to get to work. Yeah, yeah. These are the people who do it. Aren't they beautiful? I love them. I absolutely love them. And it's a privilege to work with them. And every day, actually, I'm thinking, how many kids are waiting for us at a school somewhere? We better, yeah, I better talk faster. They're advocating, they're innovating, they're coaching, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. At Muncie schools, placing learners first is that vision, and I love just this whole mission of making sure that every child is known, safe, inspired, challenged, and empowered. Those are the things that tie us. So does our values in these three things. I wasn't just saying, I wasn't just showing love to data people to be showing love. Like you drive it, whatever it is, initiatives, like the passion. When I get worked up about something and I see like a data point that is not where it needs to be, it's like that, man, that's sending me out there to try and make a difference. We look at data a lot. Mr. Walker, Chris, I don't know what to call you in this setting. Okay, thank you, Chris. Um, guides us through that a lot, as does the whole Muncie team. Being curious. Our friends at George and Francis Ball Foundation are very curious, and they've taken us on journeys across the lands where we've been able to see models and learn and bring things back, and it's made all the difference so that we can do some designing and innovating. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So, if coming together is the beginning with our why, staying together is progress, what happens with that? Courtney mentioned FAFSA. Hey, has everybody got theirs done? I know. These folks at this table can help you. Seriously, they are really, really, really good at this. Um, when we started our partnership with Muncie, we were just at number 2. We did school labs. Now we've built a pre and the 1, and what you see with there with the 3, 4, and 5 all around it, and a comprehensive FAFSA package that we just loosely call in-house. This is our FAFSA Plus plan, where we're able to track every single student and where they are in the process because of trust, access, and our partnership. This illustrates a curriculum that is happening in middle schools to help students find their way as they transition into high school with college and career. And also a high school curriculum that's happening in advisory periods. So this has been a part of our progress. So what has been a part of our furthering innovation and how has this evolved? And Chris is going to talk about this a little bit or a lot because there's a lot happening here. And I'll move these slides for you. Beginning with the Freshman Academy.
Good morning, everybody. Smile. You told me I was going to put a smile on everybody's face, so that's a lot of pressure. All right. Again, my name is Chris Walker. I have the good fortune of serving as a principal at Muncie Central. I'm in year 9. I've had a front row seat to a number of things here at Muncie Community Schools and Muncie Central, and boy, it is a great day to be a Bearcat. We have a number of things that our students are benefiting from, mainly from a ton of the partnerships that exist and a lot of the folks that are sitting in the room right now. So thank you for your continued support of our students. Our why is definitely one of the things that, when you asked that question earlier, we had almost a 5% jump just at Muncie Central in our graduation rate from 23 to 24. We're very excited about that. Are they prepared? So we've had this ongoing conversation of what is, and we joke because a lot of people say the Monday after graduation. Well, we graduate on Monday, so we always say it's the Tuesday after graduation. And I think a lot of our partnership is embedded in graduating from high school cannot be the ending of anything. It has to really be the beginning. And these partnerships have kind of come together to really focus on, we are just simply passing students through and giving them the absolute best we can in terms of access, educational attainment, opportunities, and now this career exposure piece that we'll talk about to ultimately, hopefully, build their confidence. And if you think about it, and you think about the word confidence, like usually what happens after you say the word confidence is hopefully you're thinking some type of self-assurance. And when I look at the numbers where we are with students that were 2+ weeks feeling depressed, and while our number may not be as high in this region as it is across the state, we need that number to hopefully get to a point where it is 0. We've got to let our folks know we got to lead with love, we got to lead with passion, and we've got to develop their confidence. My daughter and my wife were on a college visit this last weekend out of state. And don't worry, Mrs. Mern, she is very much considering Ball State University, I promise you. But we got to take her somewhere so she knows what she's got in her own backyard. But one of the things that my wife asked the admissions counselor was, okay, we're 8+ hours away from home. Sell us on that as a mom. And she repeatedly used the word confidence and what that institution will do to ensure our daughter's confidence in herself, because we won't be there. I don't know if she sold her on that, but boy, oh boy, it hit us in the head. And then you think of our students, how confident are they in their daily life and navigating high school? And then what is life like after high school? So at the end of the day, what I hopefully after our short presentation, and we've got a little bit of an ask at the end of it. So the price of admission right now is you get to hear us, but then there's going to be an ask at the end. But we're hopefully trying to instill that confidence to where students will ultimately know what they're passionate about and how to pursue that. And that's what project leadership is helping us do. But we got to get there first. So when we sit down and look at our data, it may not surprise you. The transition from 8th grade to 9th grade is a struggle. I'll give you a specific data point. Of all the referrals, and we still have office referrals, they're digital now. They're not the old carbon copies. So we're happy about that. But of all the office referrals that come through student services, 60% are what grade level? Freshmen. 60%. Now, some of that is immaturity, and we're just trying to make sure they're navigating a bigger building. Credits now, classes and grades count. On track to graduation is a big deal. But at the end of the day, what that data point is telling us, and Phil and his team are working extremely hard on, well, what does that tell us? But ultimately, then what do we do? Okay, well, our freshmen need more support. Well, what does that mean? Okay. So what we've looked at, thanks to George and Francis Ball and a lot of their support, is we visited other places. We really need to do more connection with our freshmen coming in. So we're creating, and we spent this entire school year planning it, and we're getting close to where the pressure is there to launch for next school year. But we're creating a freshman academy at Muncie Central, and it's not a separate wing of the building where we're sticking all the freshmen to try to isolate them. But it's a teaming model. We're in 4 core subject areas of English, math, science, and social studies. When you come in as a freshman, you're going to be placed on a team, and everyone on your team will have the same math, science, social studies, and English teacher. And then part of the constraint for us, but it's a priority, is those 4 teachers then will have common planning period where they can get together and support our students and not just talk about how they're behaving or what their needs may be, but what are we doing instructionally? What can we do when we call it tier 1 instruction or tier 1 intervention in the classroom of what can we do to better support our students? So the teaming model is critical. But then the second piece of that freshman academy is what we're calling freshman seminar. And I don't know, am I moving slides yet or not? Not yet, but okay, good job. But in freshman seminar, so I want you to think about this. If you think back to your freshman self in high school, albeit for some of us that may be many, many moons ago, but if you think about it, we want our students to be, and I say this, and our central office team knows I say this, so hopefully they're not going to judge, but we want school to get out of the way your freshman year. We don't want you to be so focused on grades, trying to adapt to school life that you miss the entire point of building a solid foundation. So the best way for us to do that is what we're calling a freshman seminar course. And it will be a course that will be for credit, but ultimately it's taking and throwing the traditional part of school out the window. And in our freshman seminar course is building all of the durable skills that a student needs to have a successful high school experience. How are they in their communication? Can they communicate? One of the first things we'll do is we'll teach them how to use email. We'll teach them that when they communicate with someone, it isn't all just one run-on sentence with no capitalization or punctuation. Amen to that, right? Because all of our English and grammar teachers back in the day, that we get a nervous tick when we see that because we weren't allowed to do that. But that's how they communicate. So being effective communicators, critical thinkers, what can we do to make sure that they are thinking critically and then ultimately seeking the answers and gaining knowledge when they don't know that they're doing that? How are they working together and collaborating? So we're going to take this freshman seminar course, and we're kind of turning things upside down at Muncie Central from a staffing perspective. You used to be able to come in, you cut your teeth with those freshman classes, and then maybe at some point someone in your department retires, and then you might move up, and boy, oh boy, you get to the last few years of your career, and maybe you're teaching seniors, and it might prolong your career for a few years. We're inverting that. Our absolute best teachers in our building have to be with our most vulnerable students, which is our freshmen. So our best teachers, whether they volunteer or voluntold, they're going to be working with our freshmen to establish that foundation in freshman seminar. So that's part of the work that we're doing just in terms of welcoming our students in and that 8th grade to 9th grade transition. But ultimately, when we get to talking about the career exposure, is we need to make sure our students are able to come out into the community and be a good ambassador of Muncie Central, but also be able to learn and be dependable in your places of work if you were going to host a high school student. So our promise to our community is that in freshman seminar, we're going to make sure to the best of our ability that our students are capable of being able to have these career exposure experiences. Is it going to be perfect? No. Our slogan right now is that working with high school kids is messy. It's just messy. Even our best of the best sometimes are not reliable. But if we've taught them how to communicate, we've taught them how to critically think and collaborate, and we've ultimately taught them service above self, then hopefully that when they have these experiences their junior, senior year, is that they'll be great ambassadors not only to our school and our community, but at the end of the day, they'll have those experiences that will set them up for future success. And at the end of the day, we can break a generational poverty cycle that exists right here in our community. And that's why we're doing it. So part of that, when you look at it, is so how do we figure out what our students want to do? And, these embedded career coaches that we talk about, and I know Julie's up here on the screen, and then you have Emma and Lynn. Emma and Lynn are our rock stars at Muncie Central. They are two career, yes, I love you. So what they do for us at Muncie Central is they host our career discovery conversations, 600 plus and counting that they've had with our juniors and seniors. They take our U-Science data, which we'll talk about that in a second, but ultimately that's an inventory for us to have a conversation starter about what students may have either an interest or a high aptitude in doing that they didn't even know that maybe they were interested in being an accountant because they're not, but their aptitude says they are. Well, let's get you connected. But they have those career discovery conversations, and ultimately our model is that we want them to have access to our students. So when our students do U-Science and those inventories, they have the career discovery conversations, then Emma and Lynn will get them connected. We usually have a meeting every other Thursday. And then Ashley, I see Ashley back there from the Chamber of Commerce, who's our Vice President of Talent Development, will come in, and then hopefully we start the conversation of, can we build it in their schedule? Can we get them out somewhere in the community to have these experiences in the career fields that they're interested in? And then some of the most valuable data will be to find out that they don't like it. They don't want to do that. I equate it to my own experience and many of my colleagues that I went to Ball State University with, that they waited until they got to student teaching to figure out they didn't like kids. Oops. Either stick it out or switch it up, right? So that's what we're trying to avoid. So that data is critical. But what you see here on the screen is that we've created with project leadership essentially what we call Intern Central, where we've created a handbook. We've got a lot of documents, but ultimately a lot of information for our families and our students, our community partners, of what we're doing to try to build an internship or job exposure opportunity for every student. And one thing that we have to realize is when we say all means all. That isn't just our students that are in the top 20 of their class that maybe have an idea of what they want to do. That's our students down at our graduation academy that probably landing an internship or a job experience will be the key for them to break the poverty cycle in their family. I mean, so all means all, and it's a heavy lift. But here's kind of the process. So that freshman year, we'll have a lot of guest speakers. We'll do some field trips in that freshman and sophomore year using that U-Science data to figure out ultimately who the audience needs to be for our students. And then we look at that junior and senior year where the job shadows will be there. But then ultimately, and we were doing some strategic planning last week, and Mr. Kinghorn has a great way of challenging us all the time. But Tom said, well, shouldn't you have something up there that says that every student at Muncie Central will be in a paid internship at some point in time? I said, absolutely, Tom. We were thinking about that. Well, I wasn't thinking about that, but don't tell Tom I said that. But yeah, and it was a Post-it note, and we got it on our slide at some point in time. But back to kind of the partnerships and the support is, well, that would have been a pipe dream for me as a building principal, is every student have a paid internship. When you have someone like Tom Kinghorn and George and Francis Ball that's saying, dream it, and we will work as hard as we possibly can to make it happen, I have no doubt that at some point in time, while it may take us a minute to get to all, But if we start setting that stage now, we're going to have some rich experiences for our students that will ultimately lead to them being very, very successful. So that's our process. Again, Youth Science is that aptitude and career discovery. So we partnered with Ball State University, Dr. Angelo and his folks in the accounting department. And so what we did is we had our students who took Youth Science. We narrowed it down and it gets very specific in Youth Science. We had 44 students who had a interest, which that number was a little bit smaller. That may have been one. But we had 43 students who had a high aptitude of being a tax preparer. That's how much it drills down in terms of a career. So if you're sitting at a table thinking, what is your career right now? Do you need to load a pipeline of future employees into that career? Youth Science will find those students that whether they indicated they had an interest or not, they may have the aptitude or skills, whether they know it, to be really, really good at that job. We'd like to expose them to that job to see if that's something that may be the hook. So we had 44 students ultimately that came and met with Dr. Angelo, brought some of his students over, met with them. And then we took a field trip to Ball State University. They rolled out the red carpet. We even did an escape game where Charlie Cardinal had to get out of tax evasion, and I think our students got him out of it. Um, and then ultimately, Whitinger, who is a CPA firm here in town, then hosted those students under their roof. And now the next goal is Whitinger opening their doors for what would be more of a job shadow on a regular basis, or even a full blown internship, where we could have high school students come over and learn the ropes under their roof to know if this is something they'd want to do. And then the beautiful thing is if we do this early enough, we can set up their high school schedule to where they could have those exposures and those classes that will lead to that career. Then we've got Ball State right in their backyard. We can matriculate them right to Ball State, and then ultimately Whitinger will employ them. And then we've even started some of the conversations of, well, what is that commitment? And Richard Christ at Whitinger is talking about through some of the funding they have and some of the foundation dollars they have of if a student from Muncie Central goes to Ball State and ultimately gets hired at Whitinger, then we have a tuition reimbursement program where if they stay with us for 3 to 5 years, we'll reimburse them for a big chunk of their college expenses. So they're trying to make an investment in that, but we want to be a partner in that. So that's part of what we're doing. And then I'll turn it back over to Tammy here as we kick off Eros and some more data stuff in terms of collecting this data and then hopefully guiding our students in the right direction.
More data stuff. We excited? Okay. This is the first time we've shown arrows. So here we are. This is the big reveal. When you think about all of the initiatives that Chris just outlined, where do we put that information? What do we do with it? What about those 600 conversations that are happening with 11th and 12th graders? How do we organize all of that? What about employers who have an interest in making sure that a student has an experience, whether that's a few hours, a few days, a few weeks? Maybe that turns into a few years. So, what Eros is a digital tool that we've developed that places student information, and that's the landing page there for students, and employer information, and then works to match the two. We are really pumped about this. This shows you, here's an example of Camp Adventure. How many of you been to Camp Adventure? No, Camp, yeah, right? Okay, so this is an example of how Camp Adventure's dashboard and information looks within this system. So our hope and plan is that all of the students that we're having one-on-one conversations with about what future path, career path they have an interest in and that they're preparing for, and all of the aptitude testing that is happening, that we're able to have them establish accounts, have dashboards, so that we can guide them on that experience. And that brings us really to all of you and the working together part of this, because that is just a system. Eros is a system, but it takes people. And we're really hopeful that you'll become a part of this process. But before we get to that, we have to further set the table so that you can see the kinds of, I was going to call them challenges. How about opportunities? Opportunities that we have with new graduation requirements. And I'm about to do a thing that really shouldn't be done. But there you go, and I apologize. It's like what is that, 7-point font? Chris is going to explain this. You've undoubtedly seen this headline, okay, that we've got changes. What is absolutely incredible, and I'm just going to tout the Muncie team here even more, is that they're ready to roll now. This is a school district that is like, hey, we aren't going to wait. We are going to make it happen now. That isn't happening everywhere, and it's powerful. Back to 7-point font, Chris. I'm sorry. Okay.
So as Tammy said, we are experiencing right now with the Department of Ed and the State Board of Education has approved our new high school graduation requirements. Don't gasp when I say this, but for the class of 2029, who are current 8th graders. So when they start freshman year next year, the high school graduation requirements that have been approved will be their high school graduation requirements. Any student that's currently in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade could opt into the new graduation requirements. So part of our challenge right now will be figuring out from a counseling perspective, staying on your current Core 40 or moving to the new diploma. Which one of those may work best for you and your high school experience? So the big push here is we're moving from 40 credits to 42. But we have, I think the big key here is a lot of flexibility. A lot of flexibility with that. So when I mentioned to you earlier about freshman seminar and how we're going to build that solid foundation for our freshmen coming in freshman seminar class and how that ultimately will work for credit is we have 2 required classes now with the new diploma. One is introduction. Well, it's a communications focused course. For us, it would be introduction to communications, and then a computer science course, which is like a computer science foundations course. So the beautiful thing is when we work with our partners at the DOE, our plan is that competency-based credits. So how you earn a credit now is not simply just sitting through 18 weeks of a class and then you get hopefully a 60% or above and you earn the credit. That is still very much the case of how you could earn a credit. But we have some of these things where we can use some learning opportunities, some experiences, but also these competency-based credits to where in seminar, at the end of first semester, if our students successfully complete the first semester of seminar, then they will earn a credit in Introduction to Communications. Not only does that fulfill the durable skills that we're trying to establish a foundation for our freshmen, but also it's a graduation requirement. Secondly, second semester, our students will earn the computer science credit. So when we talk about focusing on just a very general, broad view of computer science, we're really taking a look into what that means with our students being able to navigate email, Google, a number of different platforms to be able to be successful in terms of their communication and collaboration. So those competency-based credits will be awarded in freshman seminar. Again, Intro to Communications first semester, Computer Science second semester. We did not have the flexibility to do that in the previous graduation requirements. If we were going to offer Intro to Communications, you had to sit through a class called Intro to Communications, and then at the end of that semester, hopefully you earn a passing grade and earn the credit. So the flexibility is something we welcome. But the second and third slide, or the slides that we have here, really speak to the seals. And then the seals are what the state have come up with in order for students to hopefully have a high school experience that will allow them to enroll into some type of post-secondary college or university or program after high school, to be employed with some employability skills that hopefully will allow them to have a step ahead in getting employed, or an enlistment or service. So you see those 3 seals there. So the goal is at the end of freshman seminar, 2 semesters, is that every student at Muncie Central will declare a seal, one of these 3 seals. So we just did a couple weeks ago, we did class of 2029 scheduling, where our incoming freshmen came over and met with us. And we told them right then and there is that's the goal at the end of their freshman year, but we wanted them to maybe dream a little bit now because there were courses that they needed to have. If, let's say, if they were selecting the enrollment seal, where I know without a doubt that I want to go to college after high school, well, then we need you to get a head up because we need to, even though the fine arts and directed electives have gone away and now it's just electives, we know that in order to earn the enrollment seal, you have to have a world language experience. So we want our freshmen to select that right off the bat. So we're trying to be very aware of what those expectations are and navigate those expectations and requirements, but also try to be flexible and custom fit a high school experience for what a student wants to do when they leave Muncie Central. And where I would focus our attention for today's conversation is in that employment seal. The big chunk of this is going to come from work-based learning. And I believe it's, what does it say? I can't read it myself. I think it's 150 hours, just because I think we know that. But 150 hours of work-based learning is one of the bullet points you have to complete in order to earn the employment seal by graduation. Where are we going to do that? If I have 333 seniors right now, and they plan on graduating, let's say in class of 2029, and a lot of them are going to try to work towards that employment seal, where are we facilitating 150 hours of work-based learning? So that's where we get to a point where our partnership, hopefully with our community, but also with project leadership and the chamber, is built on, trust, respect, communication. And so this opportunity or challenge is there is that when we say all means all. So if our students are going to graduate with an employment seal, they're going to need some of that work-based learning. Even in the enrollment seal, the Honors Plus, there's work-based learning that can happen for them to earn that as well. So we're going to try to launch all of our Muncie Central Bearcats out in the community to have these experiences. And this is our promise. This is our promise to our parents, to our families, to our community, and to our students. And this ultimately is what we call the portrait of a Bearcat. So by the end of those 4 years with us, and hopefully with a lot of help from you as well, is our students will graduate with these 5 critical and durable skills. And we talked about a couple of these, but ultimately we want our students to be critical thinkers. We want them to have perseverance. Confidence isn't built. I mean, some people are wired where they just walk into a room and they're just inherently confident. And maybe it's an ignorance too, that they're just confident. And amen to that. Like, God love them. All right. And we hope that never goes away. But we got a lot of students that walk in and will sit and not say a word until Emma or Lynn finally crack open a little bit. And the next thing you know, this flood comes out. We're going to show you a video in a second. Kinley Mooneyhan is one of the students that will speak. I just love Kinley. She's on the volleyball team. She wants to be a social worker. And I didn't know that. And then you'll see her talk about, like, she wants to make sure that the standard that she set for herself, that she can live up to it. She has self-doubt. How can we help her not have self-doubt? And that's that safety net, hopefully, that we build as a community. But we want our students to persevere. We want our students to be empathetic. This is a tough one for me personally. I'm sure my wife would attest to that. It's tough to be empathetic because I personally have not walked in the shoes that a lot of our students have. I will readily admit that. That doesn't mean I don't care and don't love them and don't want to try to make sure that they have the best possible experience. So how do we teach our students to be empathetic? Where are we at with integrity, doing the right thing all the time, and then that effective communication piece? So that's our promise to our community, to our families, and to our students, that when they graduate from Muncie Central, not only will they earn a high school diploma, not only will they earn one of those seals, not only will they have a positive career exposure experience, but they're going to graduate ready to go. And then here is our video.
Hi, my name is Ladania.
My name is Shakayla.
My name is Aaron. Hi, my name is Durham.
My name is Emma. I'm a junior.
Hi, my name is Cameron Milan. I'm a junior in high school.
My name is Leah. I'm a senior, and my dream is to be an anthropologist.
My dream is to become an RN.
And my dream is to have a career in HVAC.
And I want to be a veterinary technician as my dream job.
My dream is to become an aerospace engineer.
And I want to be a carpenter.
My name is Kinley. I'm a junior and I want to pursue being a social worker.
Well, first of all, I'm good at adapting in new areas and surroundings.
I think I am pretty good at communication and talking to people. So I think I'd be able to communicate with like my clients.
I'm a really good leader, I feel like. I like to lead stuff and be able to like make stuff happen. I'm really creative.
Really good at like hands-on activities. And I've done a couple things to get really good at it. Like I've done couple summer intern programs that'll start me as a carpenter. Like I've been on a couple construction sites.
I have really good time management. If I know I have somewhere to be, especially job, I always tend to get there 10 minutes or 5 minutes early.
I just want to make sure I can find a place I can work and then get the schooling to do that. That's probably like the main concern.
My goal as of right now is to get into the union and to get around that trade and start those programs and eventually hop on to, get into the field. But I'm scared that I'm not gonna get into the union.
Standards too. I tend to put a lot of like pressure on myself, and when I don't meet the standards that I have for myself, that's when I begin to fail, in my eyes at least.
I'm worried about like how much I'm gonna have to accomplish because I'm going into such a male dominated field. I have to like overwork everybody there that I just won't get taken seriously. That either just because they don't think like I don't know enough because I'm a woman going into a heavily a male dominated field, that they just won't take me seriously and that my voice won't matter as much.
I feel like it helped me a lot because I get to see like how it is from their point of view.
That would be very helpful because I'll actually be able to ask questions.
It does show you what the job actually entails, so you have a realistic expectation.
I would gladly sit around and watch somebody do the job that I want to do so I know how to do it hands-on when it comes to that point where I have to do it.
I think seeing somebody like maybe comfort me in a way that's like everybody was you once. And so, I mean, having somebody there alongside me telling me like, you've got this, it's just, it takes effort, it takes time, and it takes really, again, that discipline to be like, even though I made that mistake or, even though I failed that test, I'm going to use that as motivation to keep going and not see it as a setback, but see it as a door opened or an opportunity to press forward and to do better and to be better.
Yeah. I want to thank Steve Gibson, who was the producer of that video, and with more than a little help from the PL team and the Muncie Central team, and those are very fresh comments, just from a few days ago, actually. So it's wonderful to have student voice represented. So as we wrap up today, because we are about to wrap up, I want to come back to some things that Tammy shared in the beginning, just bringing us full circle. And she talked about voice. That's why, it's so important to have those student voices here today. We're often in these kinds of settings, we aren't able to have those voices, or maybe we just don't make space for those voices. Tammy shared about living out our personal why, because we were all children once. And I've been thinking about where I was at the ages we just saw, and what a difference this community made in my life. Coming from a very rural place where voice, particularly of my gender, to be honest, was not celebrated or even encouraged at times. And I had an opportunity to come to Ball State for a summer workshop as a high school senior, thinking about that age, in journalism. And that day changed my life. I got to interview Betsy Ross. Anybody remember her from way back in the day? Thank you for nodding, because I feel, thank you. Um, and I had to write a story about her in an hour, and the winner got to take home an electric typewriter that was the size of 2 carry-on suitcases, no joke. So yes, I carried that from the quad all the way to the duck pond on a hot summer day, my prize that I still have, actually. I don't know if it works. I should plug that baby in and see what happens. And then I went back to the farm. And then I began to research the best journalism schools in the country. They're in the top 3, I remember Missouri, Northwestern, and Ball State. And I was like, I should pick Ball State. And the 17-year-old spent 4 years learning how to celebrate people's stories, how to pull voices from people, invite them to share that voice. And eventually, actually work with Julie as a news person for many, many years in the newsroom here and in other places. It's not coincidence that that investment that Muncie made and has made in a 17-year-old now gets to work every day with these wonderful folks, helping students find their voices, write their stories, put together those chapters into a lifetime book we hope has a great ending. You know, Tammy said, wow, now it's our responsibility to pay that back by paying it forward. Kids can't do that by themselves, nor are they supposed to. Like I could not do that by myself. And it wasn't until you said that today I was like, oh, it's okay, because I wasn't supposed to. So I've never shared that story, but it felt like doing that today as we wrap up, because it ties in so much to the word that Tammy started us out with today, why. And what we want to know is if you might be willing to help our Muncie students determine their why, so that the question mark that's often at the end of why, and that's okay that there's a period of question marks, that's natural, that we might turn that into a period. We might turn that into a statement, and that the QR code that you see here takes you to a place that allows you to put in some information, basic information about you. And if you'd be willing to have a conversation with a student, maybe you'd be willing to let them watch you work for a day or longer. Chris is chuckling because, yeah, I'm pretty sure that 7-point font said 150 hours, but that's not what we're asking for today. I promise. So I'm going to pause here and give you a minute to grab that QR code and to thank you very much for all the whys that are sitting here in this room and the difference that you make.
Thanks, Tammy. As we close, we had 3 goals. Tammy and I met, and Tammy's a planner. She's not going to do anything cold turkey. And we had 3 goals. We wanted to inform you, we wanted to empower you, and we wanted to inspire you today. The information piece, we've probably went over our time, but no one's given us the heave-ho just yet. You'll see what it is that we're doing, the opportunities we have, the challenges, how important this work is, and the work that we're doing. Maybe you didn't know that walking into the room. So the empowerment that I'm asking for, share the good news, specifically about Muncie Central, Muncie Community Schools, Muncie, Delaware County. I know how stereotypes work. I know if you've never set foot in our building, someone says Muncie Central, you may have a reaction. Hopefully you have a different reaction after hearing us talk for about 45 minutes about the work that's going on right down the road. Our kids matter. All the kids in this community matter. And hopefully we've empowered you to help share that good news. And here's the inspiration piece and the reason that we have the QR code. Hopefully we've inspired you to help. And some of you may not be from Muncie, Delaware County. I guarantee there's a high school in your community that's going to need career exposure for those high school students. So if you're not in Delaware County right now and you're thinking, I can't help Muncie Central because we're way far away, that's okay. Hopefully your principal at your high school will welcome a conversation for you to help. And that's the inspiration piece that hopefully we've left you with is, how can you host high school kids? I'm not asking that it be, okay, go back, how do I get a full-blown internship for I can't do that. But how can you help a high school kid figure out what it is that you're doing is something they may want to do? And a little bit of self-reflection as we close. If you think back to your high school experience, and I don't want you to show your hands, but how many of you had a job experience to where you actually got out of your high school building and went on site and learned about the career that you're doing right now? Some of you, maybe that's yes, and maybe you knew exactly that this is what you wanted to do. Maybe some of you have found the career that you're doing now by swinging and missing at a couple others. But think of how valuable that experience would have been however many years ago to know that in my high school experience, I realized real quick that I didn't want to do that. And I realized real quick, man, I really wanted to do this. That's what we're trying to do. So even if it's mentoring, if it's having conversations as a guest speaker about what you do and what you do to support our kids, and just like Kinley said, she just needs someone to walk alongside her to tell her it's okay. We got a room full of people who are really, really good at that, and we need your help. So Tammy, thank you so much for partnering with me and asking me to help. Thank you for the invitation, Julie, and help us. Help our kids. But, IYI, increasing the well-being of all, and I underline all children. It isn't about coming to meetings and talking about data. It isn't about going to all these community things that we go to. We got to roll up our sleeves and we got to have conversations with kids to make sure they know what path is best for them because they don't know and they are hungry for that info. So help us, help our kids. Thank you so much for having us today.
Wow, thank you so much, everybody. My name is Julie Metzger, and I have the privilege and unique position of serving on both the boards of Project Leadership and the Indiana Youth Institute. Thank you, Tammy and Chris. You are community warriors, and your work together independently and collectively has been inspiring. The Indiana Youth Institute has other board members in our community. Dr. Mia Johnson, Chancellor of Ivy Tech Anderson, serves on our board, and one of our newest board members is Jennifer Mearns, First Lady of Ball State University. We've heard a lot of information today. There's a lot to ruminate on, to think about. I will just add this much: that yes, I did have that job in high school. That exposure that led to my career, much like Tammy. She and I have known each other for 30 years. And when I met Tammy for the first time, it took me just a few minutes to know who the smartest person in the room was at this particular newspaper. She was a graphic artist, and for those of you who have received her grants or look at her PowerPoints, that might not surprise you. She has a gift for storytelling. As a professional communicator, I'm so excited that we're looking at those durable skills of like how to write an email that doesn't start, "Hey, dude," um, that that exposes people to professional behaviors. Because if I hadn't had my job, uh, I wouldn't have gotten those things either. Muncie is my hometown, and I got to raise my family here. I am struck by the connectedness of our community. It's illustrated so brilliantly through Cradle to Career, which really represents a continuum that gives students the mobility of life. So we start early and we continue working, and then we give them a path that will give them a sense of belonging and a sense of something that's bigger than themselves. So it's easy to be involved in this community, and I think all of you know that, and that's why you're here today. Because I think I've lost that point, but let me just say as I finish up here, that I just want to say thank you to all of you, to our sponsors, Cart of Indiana, United Way, Office of Community Engagement, Muncie Community Schools with Tasha Burns Griffin serves on our planning committee, and of course, George and Francis Ball Foundation. Tammy Silverman and the IYI data team stand ready to take your questions as we conclude. Feel free to linger and come over and talk to us. This is the 8th consecutive State of the Child in Muncie, and I hope we'll see you again here next year. Have a great rest of your day.